concession 8, part lot 34 in the geographic area of Elizabethtown. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from general commercial CG to residential type 2 special exception 3 R2-3. The rezoning will have the effect of bringing an existing apartment building of 3 dwelling units into compliance and permitting a reduced lot size of 0.13 acre. The background, the subject property was previously a restaurant, and after a change of ownership, they converted to a 3 dwelling unit without permits. The zoning bylaw amendment was submitted in 22 to address the complying use, but the application was put on hold due to being incomplete. After another change of ownership, the new owner completed the application and pursuing the approval. The total area of the land is 0.13 hectare. The county official plan designation is rural settlement area. The official plan designation is settlement area. There's no development constraints. The zoning is general commercial CG. The surrounding area in the north is settlement area, residential and rural. East settlement area, residential and rural. South settlement area, residential and rural, and the same for the west. Jim, would you speak on the official plan and the zoning bylaw, please?
Thank you very much, Chair, members of Planning Advisory Committee, members of the public present. I will also touch on the public meeting portion. It's on page 11 of your report. Council did host a public meeting on May 5th, 2025 in the chambers here. Notice was given as required by the Act. 100 meters or 400 feet, every property owner was notified and the sign was posted. As required by the Act, we did circulate this application for the rezoning to agencies as well. We had an email from Enbridge, no objection. Cataraqui Conservation Authority, no objection. Email from the chief building official of the township. The building permit is required for the renovations that took place without approval. The septic system permit and water treatment system are required as outlined in the hydrogeological assessment that was submitted to support the report. In terms of the provincial policy statement, the area is a settlement area. It's in the hamlet of Addison. The PPS, the settlement area, is to be the focus of development. So this is an area that lends itself to development, first of all, and then housing as a priority of the province as well. Staff has no other concerns with the PPS. In terms of the county's official plan, the area is designated a rural settlement area. And again, housing is focus of the rural settlement area, and staff have not identified any conflicts with the county official plan. In terms of our official plan, it's also designated settlement area. And this designation supports a range of housing options, including infilling, intensification, and the logical extension of existing development in order to create compact and efficient communities. We've reviewed our official plan and we see no areas of conflict with our official plan. As the chair mentioned, the property is zoned general commercial, and the intent is to rezone the property to allow 3 residential dwelling units that are already actually in the building. The supporting information that was submitted with the application includes a hydrological assessment and scope terrain analysis report that's dated April 6, 2024, and that's to support the water supply and the septic systems. Phase 1 environmental site assessment was completed by McIntosh Perry on April 12th. And the phase 1 report recommended that a phase 2 be done because there was a property in the vicinity with a former gas station on the site, and an ESA phase 2 was completed, dated November 13th, 2023. So the hydrological assessment finds that the well drilled in the property December 2023 meets required yields for water quantity for the existing residents and meets the health requirements of the Ontario Drinking Water Standards, although exceedances were noted for turbidity, iron, and manganese. The assessment recommends that the use of a water softener to treat hardness, iron, and manganese would be sufficient to treat exceedances and that levels of turbidity are not an issue. The assessment also recommends 3 options to update the septic system, as it currently does not meet Ontario Building Code standards. Provided that these recommendations are followed and that a septic permit be applied for with the township, there is no issue with the proceeding with the proposal. The phase 1, I already mentioned, recommends a phase 2. The phase 2 concluded that all soil and groundwater samples were below the applicable Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks site condition standards, except for cadmium and zinc. Based on the investigation, the exceedances are isolated in nature, and additional testing of soils is only recommended if soil is removed from the site. No further studies or testing or investigations are recommended. In terms of the recommendation to the advisory committee, recommended that PAC recommends to council that they pass the attached draft zoning bylaw, thereby rezoning the lands from commercial to residential. There is a draft zoning bylaw attached to your report. That zones the property from CG to residential type 2, special exception 3, to allow the existing development to comply with the bylaw. I'll leave it there, Chair, and respond to any questions that you might.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any questions on this? Yes, Dan?
So when the those items like the septic, is there some sort of a completion time? Or is it just based on once we get approved this for special residential? When do they have to tell you that they've completed some of these items like the septic? How does that work?
I probably could give the answer, but we'll go to Jim and.
Well, once the zoning is in place, they'll have to apply for the septic approvals from the township, and they'll have to meet our requirements for the septic. Basically will not be approved. So I don't think there's any time requirement. The specific answer to your question, Dan, I don't believe there's any time requirement on that.
The first step is to rezone it, and then they have to just, whatever time they want to use that, they apply for a permit, but the zoning's there for it.
That's correct, yeah. The zoning will be there, but they will not have an approved septic system until the application is submitted and all the requirements of the septic authority are met.
Mark? Okay,
I'll let.
Okay,
Here's it.
okay.
With the septic being needed and permits issued, does that mean that the building cannot be occupied until there's a certificate of occupancy? With regard to the building permits that were never.
Yeah, I think we've got an issue there now with. I know we couldn't issue an occupancy permit, no, I didn't answer your question. We haven't and we couldn't.
So technically, nobody should be living there.
That's correct.
Is there?
Are there people living there? It's not my file, but I believe there are, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was done, I think it's pretty clear that it was done. Not legally.
So I think the question is like, we're gonna do our part. And approve these requests here, but. How do we ensure that all the policies are being put in place? That's not I think that's staff and council's challenge. Like we got a limited. Here, isn't it? Or correct me.
I have an idea, but anyways,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I.
Two questions, Jim. I guess, is the property big enough for whatever the septic improvements required are?
If I may, according to through the chair, according to the studies that were submitted, yes, it is big enough and will accommodate. If I can maybe answer Hinden's question, enforcement is a huge issue for the, and this isn't it's nothing that's particular to Elizabethtown-Kitley, but enforcement is a huge issue. First of all, we can staff and council and any of our committees that deal with any of these issues can only deal with what's put in front of us or complaints when they're received. You know, it's complaint based and things that we find out about it, and it certainly is an issue, and my experience, it's an issue for all municipalities.
Second question. Relating to the ESA, and I thought it was a bit harsh that just because the gas station was across the road and no one ever removed the tanks, which ultimately is the fault of the municipality for not encouraging MOE to force the people to remove the tanks. Seems a bit harsh that whoever bought the old Calamity James has to have an ESA. I just thought that was a bit,
Yeah,
I guess it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. The problem being that if you convert a property rental policy from commercial use to a more sensitive use, then you've got to deal with that issue. And if they had gone through the normal channels, the result probably would have been the same. It would have had to have that completed. And I don't disagree with you, it's harsh. I'll just leave it at that. The property across the way is has an old gas station on it, or had an old gas station for those in the area.
There seems to be several things here. The no permit, the occupation, and across the road. And speaking about that across the road, Jim, I'm just looking at the zoning here when you were speaking. And the gas station, according to this map here on page 15, it's already zoned R2.
The previous gas station?
I'm just looking at on the northeast corner. I'm just looking at this diagram here. I didn't go on the official plan. I'm just looking here, right? So
Yeah.
It's already zoned R2, and
I think it's CG.
CG Herald, I believe.
Follow the arrow.
Yeah.
oh, I see. Okay, so it's still,
Oh, okay.
okay, I see there. Okay,
I see
I
what
looked
you
at it there, right? So, because I would have got rid of the tanks then if it went to the R2, because you wouldn't have to do that.
Full disclosure, that property across the way is now owned by the township. I'm not sure if.
So when are you gonna get the gas tanks?
Yeah.
Well,
We just had it tested.
they're going through a large process now to sample the everything below the ground that the township's on the hook for.
Yeah,
Does MOE have the wells in, like testing? Or you're just doing
No,
your
No,
voluntary right
the
now?
township is actually going to hire an engineering company to go in and do a bunch of test holes. And bring the earth up, test it. And also figure out where the tanks are and what kind of shape they're in.
Yeah. The same issues are being experienced in Brockville for everything surrounding Black and Decker. And Jig's Garage, which is currently for sale because that price point used to be gas. So MOE has all their testing sites in there. And that's one of the problems with the Brockville Shopping Center.
Everything contaminated.
Why nothing's being able to move along. So it's a prevalent issue, everywhere.
One last question, so because of that old gas station.
Yeah.
What's the radius around there that if anyone else wants to do anything of significance, how far out? Who gets impact? What's the distance from that site?
Yeah, there is no distance. It's up to the individual, and this individual that worked for them recommended that an ESA phase 1 be done.
Yeah.
And then that kicked in when they find out there's a gas station nearby, a former gas station. Then an ESA phase 2 was kicked in. It's really a professional call on that. And
So
it's not like a 500, there are some distances, 500 from a waste disposal site. 500 from a quarry, 300 from a pit, but there is, in terms of when an ESA phase 2 is required, there's no set distance like that in the policy. Just when you do an ES, you have to have a qualified person do the ESA phase 1. And that person, that individual is qualified to do that, will look at the surrounding properties and make a recommendation based on their knowledge and experience.
I think we township, I believe, may have had a similar situation number of years ago in the north end. That got corrected, I believe, I don't know how many years ago it was, but same thing, gas station, soil. I'm just gonna throw a question out, listening to everybody here. And I won't say concerns, but is there a way that if we go ahead with this, put a clause in, just thinking out loud here, put a clause in that says to help the township, that you can have it residential, but you have to get the permits. That you have to have the septic system, you have to have certain things done. Is that, I don't, Jim, you have a lot of experience in this, so, I mean, I understand with the township, and is there a way that we can say, yes, this can go?
Yeah,
Residential, but then have this only if this certain thing happens? I'm just throwing it out.
generally with zoning, you cannot do conditional zoning. You can do conditions on severances, you can do conditions on minor variances. But you can't do conditions on zoning, so right now. I guess our only, if this owner wants to get this legalized, wants to get an occupancy permit, the only way he or she can do that is through applying for their septic and getting this zoning changed. And there is a mechanism called the holding zone, you may have heard that.
Yeah.
If that had been discussed a while back, that might be an option, but you know, at this late stage, I'm not sure that I would want to introduce that. At this late stage, put it in a holding, there is a mechanism for a holding zone. And until the conditions of the holding zone are met, you cannot get your building permit or your septic, so they would have to go through that. But I'm hopeful, and I think given that the owner's gone to this length, the studies, the SA phase 2, the hydro-G and everything else, that you know that they will and at some point, if they don't, it will be up to the township to take enforcement action on this.
Yeah, yes. And I think that seems to be the concern of the community.
Yeah.
And I think Jim was said what I want to do. I see hope here that it's a new owner, it's a second or third owner, and they're trying to right wrongs.
Yeah.
And we as a township want to right wrongs too, and it's one step at a time. And so I think we should try to encourage it rather than discourage it. I understand that the concerns about the septics and stuff like that, and I think we'll just rely on staff to ensure that gets followed up. But our job now is to approve the zoning request change to make it legal to what it's doing.
I think all we were trying to do is help
Yeah, absolutely.
the municipality and help council with a little bit of.
Yeah, this may be, hopefully this issue, we will not proceed to the enforcement stage. Yeah, like that's what we're aiming for.
And we're about across the road, that's gonna be remedied, so eventually.
Yeah, the big word.
Yep.
Okay, I'll move with
Yeah.
this.
Seconder? Linda, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Good discussion. Thanks, Jim. Okay, we're doing 6.2 and Mr. Sharma is here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
So what this is report P-25-17 is proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 1321 Z-02-25. It's 5898 County Road 6, concession 5, part lot 6 in the geographic area of Elizabethtown. The purpose and effect, the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from rural RU to rural special exception 19, RU-19. The zoning will have an effect of allowing a dwelling within 300 meters of a closed pit and within 500 meters of a disposal industrial zoning property and permitting a reduced lot size of 0.2 hectares. The Manhard Church is located on the subject property. After a change of ownership, the new owner is interested in reserving the building, converting the church into a dwelling. The Menard Cemetery is located adjacent to the property. The total area of the lands is 0.2 hectare. County official plan designation is rural land. The official plan designation is rural. Development constraints within 500 meters of a closed disposable industrial zone. The zoning is RU. The surrounding areas, the north are rural residential and rural use. East is rural decommissioned pit. South is rural residential and rural uses, and the west is rural cemetery and rural uses. The wildland fire hazard potential is low and non-classified. As Jim stated earlier, there was a pit, on the previous one, there was a public meeting. So Jim, would you speak on the public meeting and the official plan and the zoning, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Public meeting was held by council on May 5th, 2025 in the chambers here at 6 p.m. Notice was given in accordance with the act. Only the applicant attended the public meeting and no concerns were raised. The zoning application was circulated to the agencies as required. Enbridge had no objection. The township CBO had no objection, but indicated a building permit is required for the change of use, which will also include a septic maintenance inspection and possibly a new septic system. And there was an email from Rio Valley Conservation Authority and no objections. In terms of the provincial planning statement 2024, staff have reviewed and we have no concerns with conformity with the PPS. In terms of the county's official plan, the lands are designated rural lands by their official plan. And similar to the PPS, rural lands are to be used for a variety of uses, including limited residential. The staff have not identified any conflicts with the county official plan. In terms of our official plan, the property is designated rural and limited residential development, subject to a number of factors, including the preservation of rural character. Residential development is permitted. The lands to the south are zoned for a pit. However, that pit is no longer an active pit and has been remediated. Therefore, the land will likely not impose any constraints on the property. The property is also located outside the 300-meter influence area of mineral area designation. So long story short, the pit should not be an issue. It was a licensed pit at one time, but that license is no longer active and the pit's been remediated. The proposed dwelling is within 500 meters of a closed waste disposal site. Policies of our official plan require that a land use compatibility study be completed to determine any adverse impacts to the developments of sensitive land uses. To support the application, a land use compatibility study was completed by Patterson Group dated March 28th, 2025. The study recommends that through information received from the township, on-site observations, chemical analysis, and the separation distance between the proposed dwelling and closed disposal site of approximately 400 meters. The closed waste disposal site will not have any adverse impact on the proposal. And just in answer to Mark's question, the 500 meters is a provincial policy which follows through the planning documents, but it is somewhat arbitrary. And if you're going to go from that 500-meter distance, then studies are required to do so, which has been done in this case. In terms of the other study that was required and based on provincial policy and archaeological assessment was completed. A stage 1 was done first, and that recommended that a stage 2 be done. The stage 2 archaeological assessment was completed by Matrix Heritage in May of 2025, and the stage 2 recommends that no further work is required, which satisfies the township's policies in our official plan. From the information presented, the supporting study, staff have not identified any conflicts with our official plan. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the property zone rural is proposed to be rezoned to RU19 to permit a lot on a 2 hectare parcel through the special exception 19 zoning, and that zone will also have a reduced setback of 380 meters from a waste disposal site, which isn't mentioned in that portion of the report. It's recommended that Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council pass the attached draft zoning bylaw amendment, thereby amending the zoning as mentioned in Michael's report, and the draft zoning bylaw is attached for committee's approval. Thank you very much, Chair. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Sharma, is there anything you'd like to say to the committee prior to it going before the committee?
No, sir, everything Jim has already stated. We were guided by Michael and Sarah about the professional assessments which were required. So we hired the Matrix Heritage Archaeologists Incorporated from Richmond, Ontario. And their reports, stage 1 and stage 2, was emailed to Michael and Sarah, and they were fine, perfect. There was a concern about the land use compatibility. So the company named Peterson Consulting Engineers, these are the environment engineers from Ottawa, were hired. And their president is Michael B.O.D. Doing. And he sent the people over there to check the site. Everything came fine, and to them, we made soil and water testing by lab named Testmark Laboratories in Mississauga. So they done an extensive testing of the soil and water for any contaminants. And the study came perfect. The water is drinkable, and there is no smell, no odor. The land surveyor we used was Hopkins Chitty, because the property did not have a land survey before, so they were used, and all the documents were emailed to so everything looks good from my side.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
for your comments. Any questions or clarification? Think we have a motion into. No, Henry, seconder, Linda, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for doing everything.
Nice seeing you.
Thank you. Jim, you might just wanna maybe explain to him, please, next steps, yes, before we go on.
So serenaded. So the next step would be this. Filing application for council. It's a meeting.
Here's
That's done. And then we would talk to the buildings.
Yes, there's a lot of them going on now.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
gentlemen.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Jim. The next report is P-25 18, is proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 1321. Z03 25, land severed from 5916 Bain Road. Section 5, part lot 4 and 5, geographic area of Elizabethtown. The purpose is, purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone a portion of the subject property from mineral aggregate extraction pit EX-P to rural special exception 20, RU 20. The rezoning will have the effect of permitting the existing cemetery, prohibiting all other uses, and permitting a reduced lot size of 0.16 hectare. The background, the Brown Cemetery is located in the subject lands. The property is subject to a severance application B 1124 with the purpose of separating the cemetery from the retained lands. The rezoning is a condition of the severance. The total area of lands is 0.16. The county official plan designation is rural lands, mineral aggregate, tertiary sand and gravel. Official plan is rural. The development constraints adjacent to significant woodlands. The zoning mineral aggregate extraction pit EX. And the surrounding use is residential rural. I guess we'll just discuss this one first and then we can go on to, or we can do, we'll discuss this one first and then we'll do the severance, I guess, next then.
Okay.
Or whatever, you know what, we might as well, yeah, let's do, possibly, you wanna do it one at a time, Jim, or would you like to do two?
The severance has been approved already.
Okay,
Chair. It was approved conditionally.
yes,
So I'm not sure which, so we've already, the Planning Advisory Committee already recommended approval of the severance to council. and the county has approved the severance, is that correct?
Okay,
And it's conditional on this rezoning,
okay,
so we've been through that.
I
Harold,
didn't
so-
know if we had.
Yeah,
to
I
redo
had
it again or
asked
not, right,
Sarah
so-
there to just make sure
yeah.
myself, so.
Yeah, okay, can you then speak on the official plans? and-
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks,
Did you mention the public meeting, Chair?
no. but
No?
we can-
Okay. I will mention that then, again, it was held on May 5th, 2025 in the chambers here. And no members of the public were in attendance. We did receive an email from Enbridge with no objection and an email from our CBO with no objection. In terms of the provincial policy statement, it is rural lands. And the rural lands policy, the PPS, does specifically have a policy that says cemeteries are permitted, so. There's no question there that this conforms with the PPS. We've not identified any other conflicts with it. The lands are designated rural lands by the county. There are some mineral aggregate, tertiary sand and gravel deposits on the remainder of the lands outside the cemetery. However, given that the cemetery is existing and the severance will not change anything there in terms of the use of the property, staff identified that there are no conflicts with the county official plan. The property is designated rural by our official plan, and limited residential development and a number of other uses are permitted in our official plan, provided the preservation of rural character is considered. Policies of the official plan require that an archaeological assessment is to be completed for proposals adjacent to cemeteries. However, as there is no development related to this application, it was made known to the applicant that no archaeological assessment would be required. And the county is the approval authority for the severance, and they also concurred that there would be no archaeological assessment required in this situation. In terms of the zoning, the chair mentioned this to be rezoned from EXP, which is the mineral aggregate zone, to a rural special exception zone, RU-20, to permit the proposed severance. The RU-20 will have a rezoning to allow a lot of 0.16 hectares, and existing cemetery will be the only permitted use. So that's the RU-20 zone. Staff recommendation is that PAC recommends to council that the attached draft zoning bylaw be passed. And again, as mentioned earlier, this is a condition that the township put on the rezoning for the severance. So once the rezoning is in place, that condition will be able to be satisfied for the severance. I have nothing further at this point, Chair, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Any questions or? Dan?
So this is the original owner of the land. Wants to separate from the cemetery. Is that how that works?
Yes, if I may, Chair, wants to separate the cemetery from the remainder of the lands. I believe he wants it perhaps to sell the remaining lands, but the cemetery as the existing owner, and it's the Brown family, I believe, and they want to separate that from. Yes,
With the possibility of doing something down the road. That's what they had to do first.
that's correct.
Just out of curiosity, is it a maintained cemetery or is it wild?
It's a privately owned cemetery,
Right,
so
it's maintained to their standard.
I believe the applicant did, at the time of severance, they were in contact with the bereavement authority, but. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, no more questions, then could I have a motion, please, Dan, seconder? Mark, okay, thank you, all in favor? Thank you. Favor, thank you. Our next meeting is Thursday, June 19th at 4 o'clock. Is there any other business? Seeing none. Sarah, was there any questions sent in?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. In that case, yes, Jim.
Sorry, Chair, if I may, the June 19th meeting, I am planning on bringing the NAP, or not NAP, the Pluie subdivision official plan amendment and zone change. I may have talked to you about this before. to that meeting. And I'm not sure whether Michael, I'm not sure what Michael may have some other things, but I'm certainly going to bring that official plan amendment. And zone change for the Pluie subdivision to June 19th.
Okay, thank you. And I kind of a motion and a second there to adjourn the meeting. Linda? Dan, thank you very much. All in favor? I declare the meeting adjourned.